gentlemen, how is everybody doing today? I hope this video finds you well, healthy, and in good spirits, guys. I hope you were able to enjoy the weekend. You were able to enjoy the really warm weather and the really nice weather we had. I hope you were able to get outside and get a break from schoolwork and get a break from having to sit at your dining room table, your kitchen table, sitting on your couch, sitting on your bed, wherever you might do your schoolwork. I hope you were able to take and get a break from it for a little while and enjoy some time outside or some time with your family or what have you. I hope you were able to do that so you got a break from school. We haven't had one of those in a while, so I hope you were able to get a break and take a break for a little while. If you would like to share with me any fun or exciting things you did over this weekend, please go ahead and click on the link that matches up with your class, and please go ahead and share what you did over the weekend so that I can hear it and I can give you guys some feedback. I will do my best to listen to those today or tomorrow so I can give you guys some feedback and kind of congratulate you on an awesome weekend had and stuff like that. So please, if you feel comfortable, if you want to do it, please go ahead and share with me what you did over the weekend here. All right. So for the lesson today, the plan for today, today is May 26th. It is an A day, and we're going to be talking about the Compromise of 1850, which we discussed on Wednesday. But I want to go ahead and review it and touch on it again and kind of review it a second time, just so you guys can see, what some of the answers were, what some good examples of answers are for that Google form, and just kind of see what the importance of the Compromise of 1850 was and why certain people might have felt a type of way about the Compromise of 1850. So I want to make sure I review that. My office hours today are from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. and from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. So if you do have any questions, if you do have any concerns, please go ahead and reach out to me, and I will reply to you as quickly as I can. So let's take a look before we go over the answers to that Google form from last Wednesday. I want to take a look at some of the reminders that I want to remind you guys about and talk to you about from the lesson on Friday, as well as anything else that you might owe or that might be due. So if you are listening to this video, that means you have completed step one. Go ahead and give yourselves a round of applause, if you please. Good. All right. The second thing I'd like you to do, make sure you have watched the teacher lesson video from May 22nd. That was Friday. Please make sure you have completed the check for learning from Friday, and please make sure you complete Unit 14, key terms 6 through 10, which is due tomorrow. So make sure you get that done. Make sure you have that done so I can grade it and give you credit. And as long as you've done all of those things, you'll get at least a 2 and earn at least a 2 on your lesson for May 22nd. All right? And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. All right. So before we go ahead and take a look at some good answers for this check for learning, I want to take a look at what the check for learning itself was. So in this check for learning, I went ahead and I gave you guys a document. And I asked you guys to go ahead and read that document. And then based on that document, what I wanted you to do is I wanted you to identify the speaker's bias against the Compromise of 1850. So we know that John C. Calhoun was the speaker and was the guy that was giving this speech. And I wanted you to tell me what his bias was. And just a reminder, bias is the reason a person might feel the way that they do. So for example, when we were talking about the Revolutionary War, any British soldier would have thought that most of them at least would have thought that the colonists were acting like children and not being loyal to the king because they are British, and they would have automatically most likely sided with the British. Any colonist would have looked at the British as tyrants and dictators, and the king is a dictator because they have grown up in the colonies, they have lived in the colonies, and they have known a way of life that allowed them to kind of be more free prior to the French and Indian War and stuff like that. So they would have sided with the colonies and the revolution because they were colonists. So that is just kind of a simple version and stuff like that. So if we look at this kind of one sentence up here that gives us a little bit of an introduction to the document, it says John C. Calhoun, a senator from South Carolina, wrote a speech saying that the proposed compromise did not go far enough to satisfy the South. Remember, South Carolina is a southern state. It says John C. Calhoun was a senator from South Carolina, so he was a senator from a southern state. And at this time, remember, people are siding with the section of the country that they live in. If you live in the North, more than likely you are going to support Northern ideas and Northern beliefs. If you live in the South, that means you are going to believe Southern ideas and agree with Southern beliefs and try to defend the South and stick up for the South. So John C. Calhoun is no exception to this. So the question asked, based on this document, identify the speaker's, John C. Calhoun's, bias against the Compromise of 1850. So I want to take a look at some of the really good answers that we had to this question. So the first one I want to talk about is actually the last one on this list, and that answer is from Leah Morgan, and it really kind of summarizes and answers this question in a very, very direct way and in a very simple way. It says he is from the South, which makes him on the South side for slavery. So if you remember, guys, those two provisions, the the updated fugitive slave law and popular sovereignty, those were two provisions that were meant to satisfy the South. Those were two things in the Compromise of 1850 that were used to satisfy the South. But from John C. Calhoun's perspective, that wasn't enough. And the Compromise of 1850 needed to do more for the South, which is why he would have sat there and he would have criticized the Compromise of 1850. So he still wants the compromise to go through, but he is arguing that it doesn't do enough for the South. That is why he would make that argument, which is why Leah says he is from the South, which makes him on the South side. Okay? So that was a really good answer. That was the perfect answer, laid it out very directly, very simply. Okay? The next answer I want to talk about is Cole Bogart's answer up at the top. And it says the speaker's bias is he is in the South, so he is for it, as in he is for the South, because that is how the Southern economy runs. It runs on slavery. It runs on having more slave states and the expansion of slavery being, or the system of slavery being allowed to expand. So he is going to argue that more needs to go towards the system of slavery. More parts of the Compromise of 1850 need to benefit the system of slavery and need to help the system of slavery grow. John C. Calhoun is going to argue that and going to try to get more out of that compromise and stuff like that. So great answer, Cole. That is exactly right. The next answer comes from Gavin Hollinger, where he says John C. Calhoun was biased towards the North. Now, this was one small slip. So I think what Gavin meant was the South. But John C. Calhoun was biased towards the South, saying that they'd already won so much, or that he didn't mean the South. Let me rephrase that. He didn't mean that he was biased towards the South. It was biased against the South. So you can substitute the word towards for against. That's really what Gavin meant, and that's how I read it, and that's why I still thought it was a good answer. John C. Calhoun was biased against the North, saying that they'd already won so much. The North had already gained so much. They already have more advantages than the South. They don't need the Compromise of 1850 to give them another advantage on top of that. So that's what Gavin is saying. That was a correct answer. That was very good. And last but not least, the answer from Brace Tessier is a great answer also. John C. Calhoun was biased against the Compromise of 1850 is towards the South because he is saying the South isn't satisfied. So John C. Calhoun's bias against the Compromise of 1850 is towards the South because he is saying how the South isn't satisfied. So his bias goes towards the South because he's from there, and he's saying that the South is not satisfied with the Compromise of 1850, and the Compromise of 1850 doesn't do enough for the South. That's what he's trying to say. That's what he's arguing, and that is 100% correct. So remember, guys, we have those two provisions, the popular sovereignty and the new fugitive slave law, that are going to benefit the South in the Compromise of 1850. And then you have California coming in as a free state. You have Washington, D.C. no longer being allowed to sell slaves, or you're no longer allowed to sell slaves in the city limits. And Texas can no longer try to claim land west of kind of its western border any farther west than it already is. So those parts of the Compromise of 1850 are going to benefit the North, and they are going to help the North and give the North a little more power. So with that said, guys, that sums up. I just wanted to review the Google form about the Compromise of 1850. If you have any questions about that, have any further questions about that, please don't hesitate to email me from between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. or 3 p.m. and 4 p.m., and I will get back to you as quickly as I can. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have yourselves a fantastic day, and I will catch you tomorrow when we talk about the Dred Scott case and the fugitive slave law. Have a fantastically splendiferous day, guys.